What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Thanks again for tuning in, liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell, as it does help the channel continue to grow as the season moves along. Now, that Christmas Day game, I gotta say, it was a good cap off to a 3 game winning streak, and hopefully it turns into four this coming Sunday. But I gotta say, controlling the Mavs from start to finish is literally all you can ask for from this Warriors team. Now, starting off, they had what? It was 40 points to start off the game at the end of the first, and I'm not gonna lie. That is a solid look. They led by 12 at the end of the first, picked up another what were they leading by 13 at halftime, and then just completely controlled the game throughout it. Yes, they only won by 12, but you know what? They only won by 10, but I will still take that because this is a game the Warriors needed. They were able to get the job done. They were able to move the ball around and able to get that win on Christmas Day. Now, this Warriors team, let's be honest, to start this season, we had this 50-50 feeling that they would lose. But they were able to pull it off. And I also liked how they were able to limit Anthony Davis. Unfortunately, he got injured. And they were able to at least somewhat limit Cooper Flag, as he didn't have, when I was watching that game, there was nothing that really stood out to me that said, "Oh my God, this guy is the greatest thing since sliced bread." With all this talk about first round picks, I think about this year with Cooper Flag. I think of Zion Williamson. I think of Cade Cunningham, but Cade's sort of come into his own. I think of Anthony Edwards. Yeah, he's sort of come into his own. Paolo Banchero. I feel like for a lot of first round picks, there have been ups and downs, especially when it comes to Duke first round picks. And I think the same can be said with Cooper Flag. He has his highs and he has his lows. And while he did have a good game, I believe he scored, what was it? He had 27, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. That didn't really get the job done. You need to show out more than just like 20 plus or within 25 to 27 points for a Christmas Day game. This is premier television basketball when it comes to the Christmas Day games. You're supposed to show up and show out. Maybe look what Joker did. He dropped over 50 against the Timberwolves to get that win. If you're Cooper Flag, if you're going to take a loss, you got to drop at least 35 to 40 because these are the biggest games to start the season. You could talk about the NBA Cup all you want. No cup game is as big as playing on Christmas Day because the cup games are nice. It's a good playoff type atmosphere. There is that extra $500,000 bonus that you can get. Good if you're a young player. It's a better look if you give it away to staff if you're a vet. But these Christmas Day games, you're supposed to put on a show. And Cooper Flag left me wanting more and expecting better things. So I don't know if seeing him, I don't know if he's as good as people say he is. I remember seeing him originally at the inaugural Fanatics Fest in New York City, and this is back when he was a high school kid from Maine. Yes, he is what they call the Great White Hope since Larry Bird, but still, I don't see it. Maybe it's just early. Maybe he's playing on a bad team. Maybe the Mavericks need to do more to really build around him. But all I saw was a good player on a bad team. And without Kyrie, without Anthony Davis, he should have been dropping 40 and really showing up, especially considering how small the Warriors lineup is. I felt like he was a little afraid, and I was just annoyed because I expected so much more. And looking at those extra stat lines like blocks and, well, he did have 2 blocks, or excuse me, he only had a single block and a steal. Anthony Davis had 2 blocks before leaving the game. But you need to go all out in games like this. And I was very disappointed by Cooper Flag, but I'll take the Warriors win. Hopefully this momentum continues rolling through the weekend when they have that back-to-back against the Raptors and Nets, and they turn that winning streak into 5. However, there were a few issues I saw within this game, and the biggest issue I saw was the three-pointers. And I had been talking about this forever, and it really showed during this game because, look, They were 14 for 50 from three. That's 28% from behind the arc. And for a team that is like live or die by the three, we got to be thankful that they didn't die by the three. At this point, we have to acknowledge the fact that outside of Steph, this team does not have a reliable three-point shooter. Like Steph can hit it from anywhere, and that's a fact. But this game, I don't think he was on his he had his best, because looking at it, where was he? He was 2 for 10 from beyond the arc. And if they're not falling from three, it's time to start taking more shots from inside the arc, just so you make them. I mean, I remember watching a sequence where I believe Quentin Post put up a three. Draymond grabs the rebound, throws it back to Quentin Post, puts up another three, and misses that as well. And it's raising a lot of red flags, because like you can't continue to expect the three-point shot to work when you don't have any reliable three-point shooters. And for me, I want to see them just take a few steps in, because that Quentin Post three, he had a wide open lane to just drive in a little bit and get a closer, more higher percentage shot. And had he made that, Warriors would have been up more, and I'll take that. I'll take an easier shot that goes in versus a long distance shot that had a somewhat high percentage and doesn't go in, especially when you miss it 2 shots in a row. So the Warriors need to just really, really look in the mirror and say, all right, we got to start shooting from inside the arc. Really stop just barraging them with threes, because obviously we aren't that team anymore. Coach Kerr acknowledged that this isn't the dynasty of old, and it's time for the rest of the team to accept that. Now, I did like the fact that, yes, a lot of the team outside of Steph did score in the double digits. We have Moses Moody with 12, Jimmy Butler with 14 to go along with 9 assists, 9 rebounds. I'll take that borderline triple-double. You had D'Anthony Melton with 16, Trace Jackson Davis with 10, Pods with 13, and then Al Horford with 14. So there were a lot of guys that were scoring all over the place, and I do like that, to go along with Steph's 23. So I like that aspect of this game, but they just got to stop with these three-pointers. Enough is enough, because eventually there's going to be a playoff game that comes where they're just going to rely on the three-pointers, and next thing you know, they're down 30 at halftime. And that's just because they were so overly reliant on that three-point shot. I even saw Draymond take a couple bad threes. And when Draymond's taking a three, you know things are in dire straits. Because Draymond, he can't hit a three, like can't hit water falling out of a boat. So I don't want to see Draymond do any stuff like that. I don't want to see like guys who aren't supposed to shoot threes. And it also makes me question, maybe I was wrong about Quentin Post, because he's shooting these threes, and you know what? He's not making the smartest decisions like on offense. Like, I get you want a stretch big to create spacing, but when you have that big of a lane to just get an easy bucket, just like 2 dribbles, and he has some handles, but like 2 dribbles in, easy shot, you got to go for that easier shot, because you need to start making these baskets instead of overly relying on the three-point shot. But I digress. Enough is enough with the three. It's time to just take the highest percentage shot versus just the highest value shot, because you never know. You might get fouled, and next thing you know, it's an and one. You get potential points later in the game, getting the team into foul trouble. But there was one guy I did like watching throughout game who wasn't Cooper Flagg or any of the Warriors, and that was Daniel Gafford. And the main reason is because Daniel Gafford is a big target for the Warriors. We've heard them talk about bringing in Daniel Gafford, Nick Claxton, Robert Williams. I've talked about Ivan Zubac, who I like the best. Unfortunately, he's out with an injury to his ankle, so that's going to be a little tough to do in the coming weeks. But with Daniel Gafford, I got to say, I originally thought he just wasn't that much, but I was impressed with what he did and how he affected the game. Now, looking at his line, it wasn't great. He had 6 points, 5 rebounds, and what was it? Let's see, 2 turnovers and 2 fouls. All right, not the best, but I liked how he affected the game on defense and really just put pressure on the Warriors, at least in the post. And I guess that kind of forced them to shoot from outside. But I did like what he did in terms of how he can affect the game without the ball in the hand, grab those rebounds, and be a big rebounder. Like imagine him on the Warriors and him just grabbing let's say 10 to 11 rebounds a game because he will be that reliable rebounder over guys like say Draymond or even Quentin Post or even Al Horford. So I do like that aspect of him, and I still think he's a good trade target for the Warriors. I think they need to make a trade for him sooner rather than later, and because he's not really playing up to what he could be, they could get him in a buy low scenario where they don't actually have to give that much up for him. And next thing you know, they solve that hole in the middle, and now they have a solid rebounder who can go up against the likes of Rudy Gobert, Joker, and the likes of Wembanyama. Now, Wembanyama is going to be the biggest problem because I was watching that Thunder Spurs game. The Spurs are legit. Luckily, the Warriors have the Spurs number, and in the playoffs, the Spurs are going to play the Thunder one way or another. Whether hopefully it's in the earlier rounds, but the Spurs are going to win. They're here and they're here to stay. They are scary. And you know what? I'm glad the Warriors have their number, but this is exactly the reason why we need Daniel Gafford for the likes of Wembanyama, because we might not be so lucky a third time. So let's go out, let's get him, and fill that hole in the middle. Now, bottom line is, with these that they have today off, the Warriors have today off, they have tomorrow off, and then they play Sunday at 3:30 Eastern time. So they've got a lot of time to rest, and I do like that, especially after this Christmas Day game. And you know what? I like it because they're going to come in well rested. They got this back to back. They go 3 p.m. game versus Toronto, and then a 7 p.m. game the next day in Brooklyn. This is going to be a tough back-to-back, but I think they have what it takes to win this back-to-back, turn this into a 5-game winning streak, and then go into the new year hot as a pistol. So as long as the Warriors take advantage of this rest, take advantage of getting their body right, they will keep this win streak going and hopefully make it 5 straight by the new year. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, thanks again for liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. And you know what? If you have any thoughts on a deal for Daniel Gafford and what would be in that kind of deal, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas. And as always, go Dubs.